Good afternoon, Accelerators organization. Hope you're having a good midsummer, mid-August, hopefully holidays or high sales, depending on what business you're in. So we've got some great questions here that have come through from the team. Really looking forward to answering them and really kind of diving deep into what people are thinking about as far as taking the leap, going all in on their business, growing subscription revenue, and how to deal with some of the HR issues that really come up within the business. So yeah, I'd like to get into it right away. The first question is, how do I get ongoing subscription revenue? So rather than that one-off purchase, how do I get that Amazon Prime? you know how do I get that subscription revenue? So it's either a monthly revenue or annual revenue that people just renew on and kind of keep you as their primary provider. And this is really going to depend on your business, but a lot of people have this figured out. And it actually made me say, oh, how can I get more subscription business? How can I kind of up the ante? And I jumped on monster.com because they used to be one of the big players on advertising, recruitment, and just checked out what they do. And one of the things they do is price by volume. So you can have different subscription levels based on the volume your customer does. So in this case of the member, they're looking at photography, specifically product based photography. So how many times per year, ask your clients, survey them, ask them how many times per year they're currently using a photographer for their business. Ask them when they might also want to use them, but currently don't, maybe because of price or because of scheduling. Like, what are the things that might be barriers to entry, right? And then think about designing a subscription for that ideal client, right? So, my ideas of a subscription are, like low price, allows me to pay for something over time. But somebody also might want to say, oh, if I could do like three shoots a year and it would cost me less than 20,000, that might be a really good fit for them. And check out what your competitors are doing, not just locally but nationally. What subscriptions have they set up, and which are working. That's what I would really kind of look for, um, and and try it out. Right? Ask your clients, if I was going to set up a subscription service at $199 a month and it would give you these services, would you be interested in buying that? And really kind of work with them on that, and design it custom for them, but then try and put that into 3, 4, 5, 10 other customers, and then see if you can start to get subscriptions purchased on your website. Definitely put it up on your website. And what add-ons might they be paying for somebody somewhere else that you could buy at volume? So I paid, I think, 3 to 5 thousand for some videos a couple years ago. They had them posted on their hosted online service for hosting those videos. Now they're no longer there, right? If they had sold me on a subscription and I just paying $20 a month, I'd more likely hire them again for other videos, but also they would have guaranteed for me those videos were online. And if you actually look at the cost of web space for keeping photographs or videos, it's not that expensive, but it's just one worry you take away from your customers. So as part of that subscription, what worries can you take away from them? You might be able to add something like unlimited editing of your previous shoots throughout the year. And you might be able to outsource that to somebody else, another service, or be able to do it yourself if you have that extra time. But those add-ons that you can sell in the subscription, which you usually charge, $100 there, or for, or $50 or $60 for, you might be able to sell that. So definitely a great idea. Loyalty programs, subscriptions, definitely think people should look at that. I think there's a really good book on subscriptions as well. I don't know the name of it, but I'm sure we can have somebody post it down below, or we can look that up. The next question comes from Brad. How do you know when the right time is to leave your full-time job and go all in on your business? It's a great question, Brad. Lots of exercises you could do to kind of go through this, and just as a background for other members who might still have a part-time job or a full-time job. Brad's a full-time firefighter and paramedic for his local community. He's been there 13 years, but things have really changed there, and he's just really struggling to stay, but he doesn't feel like he's got that security with his growing business. So, but he's burned out and he's ready to leave. So one of the things I really like to do is say, what is the worst that could happen? And there's actually an exercise for this. It's I think it's a stoic exercise. If you go out camping in the woods, just with a t-shirt and a tent, hopefully some pants. But if you go out camping and you spend overnight and you just got a little bit of water and a little bit of food, really going back to the basics and just say to yourself, what do I really need? And if worse comes to worse, and my business didn't work out, right now there's a ton of jobs, even like entry level jobs are getting higher and higher wages and stuff. So most people can get by even if their business doesn't work out. So taking that leap and giving up that secure job and maybe the pension and the 401k and stuff is difficult to get over. But if you can remember that you're going to get by no matter what, it'll really help you to be able to say, yes, I can let go of that. Another exercise to go through is, close your eyes and say, if I don't change anything in the next 1 month, next 3 months, next 6 months, the next 3 years, next 5 years, what is my life going to look like? And Tony Robbins does this. He does it at one of his retreats, or even all of them. And to see that, chances of things, burnout, gaining weight, whatever it is that's giving you a negative, if it's your current job or continuing another habit, seeing that future really kind of crystallizes things on how we're going to make a change. So I totally recommend, say, if I stay in my job, what do things look like 3, 6 months, 2 years down the road, 5 years down the road? And then close your eyes again and say, if I grow that business, what do things look like 3 months, 6 months, 3 years down the road, 10 years down the road? So kind of envisioning that really helps, and actually writing out those goals of where I want to be in 3 and 6 and 10 months, and help you hopefully take that leap and say, yeah, I can go all in. This is, what I'm kind of got at stake, and the worst comes to worst, I'm happy living on my boat, right? Whatever it is your fallback of if things go bad, but also what are the opportunities if they go right? How much better will your home life be if you don't have to work those shifts that you're having to work as a paramedic and a firefighter? What'll it look like if you're able to get that extra 10% margin? What'll it look like if you're able to get another employee and start to only work half the year but receive full-time the revenue in your current business, right? So lots of things that really help, and then just making sure that you kind of have the people in your life on board, right? Tell your spouse, tell your family, say, this is what I'm going to do. I want to make sure that we're all feeling okay on this, and we've got support. If you do have a naysayer, talk to more people, right? Talk to other members, and really figure out, what it is. Because some people say, no, don't take the leap. But really, your business is not going to get bigger unless you're committed to it full time. So really make sure that you've got your ducks in a row. You're making that revenue at least enough to kind of make ends meet. And then, yeah, I'd say pull the trigger. That's my personal thing. One of the things that I did to help is I sold my truck. I was like, oh, the maintenance costs were getting a little high on it. And I got another vehicle that was on, 0% financing. I know that's not available very much these days, but even at 5% financing, and it gave me that, $10,000-$15,000 in cushion. So I had the cash flow as I got my business up and running, right? So what things can you do to kind of help you with your personal cash flow or your business cash flow? You can lease assets, sell things. You might downsize your house. There's any number of things that can help reduce your costs and give you that breathing room to kind of take the leap. Next question is from Rosselli. What's the best way to discuss work performance concerns with a team member in a way that will help them improve rather than feel frustrated? Yeah, this is super important, is having these courageous conversations with employees early and often. Rosselli's got an accounting firm, and when team members get stuck on clients' work, she often jumps in on a call with them and resolves the issue immediately. One of the things I try and do is really bite my tongue. When I see an employee struggling and questions come up in meetings, I feel like everybody's eyes turn towards me. And if I can just wait, you know, wait 5 minutes or 5 seconds, wait 50 seconds, somebody else is going to come up with answers, right? It might be that employee who asked it, it might be another employee, but say, what are you going to do in this situation? Kind of put it back on them. What could you do differently? Um, Really giving them that opportunity early on to make those decisions. And you know embarrassment on doing things wrong is it's an issue, but if you have those conversations and just say, listen, here's what you needed to do better, here's the steps I think you need to take, what do you think? So ask for that feedback, right? So if the constructive criticism you're giving them, you know they disagree with, it's good to learn that, right? So if they're not going to change, you might want to look at maybe walking them out the door. If they don't have the same values and they're not willing to agree to your processes, then you really got to say, you know, are you going to be able to do that next time? Do you think that will work for you? And if they're not going to change, then really you have to look at whether or not you'll make a change. But really asking them, what would you do differently? Next time I'd like you to do this, this, and this. Does that work for you? Really asking for that commitment, and making sure that you don't let that behavior go on a long time, because anytime you're dealing with performance problems and you're thinking it's going on too long, it's probably gone on far too long, right? So don't have a high tolerance level for poor performance. It hurts a company, and really it hurts that employee as well if they're underperforming. So next question is also from Rosselli, and I hope I have your pronunciation of your name right. But how do I make a first meeting with a new contact productive? So they're in the business to business um, field, right? So they're looking at getting accounting clients. They've got an accounting firm in Southern Florida. Great fishing down there. I hope you're having a great summer. Love that area. You've been looking at adding people to your prospect list on LinkedIn and inviting them out for coffee. And she doesn't want to make it too long to inconvenience them. So how to make this work, and how long should be it last, and what is the objective? So what I always say is 15 minutes for coffee, right? If somebody says, hey, I'm going to come, is it okay if I come by and bring you a coffee for 15 minutes? Most people will have the time, right? I think that's something important. And if they come to me understanding something about my industry, asking three really good questions that help them learn and understand my business better, I think that's super helpful. If you're a person of knowledge, and accountants have tons of knowledge, you know the new changes in tax law, what we're seeing, what could happen in tax law. If you can see on LinkedIn, you can see somebody's maybe a baby boomer, possibly looking at retiring, maybe saying, hey, can I take up 15 minutes of your time? I was just doing some research on um, how to maximize your returns on the sale of a business, right? It might be something they're interested in chatting about. So giving a topic to them about what you want to talk about would be good. But really, if you've got three good questions about their business, just say, hey, I see you've got a business that does X. I'd love to learn more about it. I've got a couple of clients in this field. Can I take you for your coffee next Wednesday? If that doesn't work for you, here's my Calendly link, and it'd be great to meet with you. And one of the things about sending a Calendly link is you can actually put where that meeting's going to be. So hopefully a coffee shop near them or in the same community. Or if it's a virtual, just say, hey, I'd love to meet with you 15 minutes of your time online, because I'd love to ask you questions about this and how it's affecting your business, right? That's a really good way, because you're thinking about them, not about pitching your services, because everybody's using a bookkeeper, an accountant, and they don't think they need those services. But if they think, oh, this person's going to ask me questions about my business, learn more about it, And the nice thing about accountants is they're really connectors. So you got lawyers and accountants and other B2B service providers. It would be great if their business provided copy machines for you to connect them with some of your other clients, right? And just say, hey, we've got 15 commercial clients and would love to know more about your services and if they're a fit for our clients, right? So it's, you don't want to be blowing smoke, but you really want to be able to say, listen, I'm a connector in the community and I'd love to get to know you and your business. All right, next question is from Eric. Is it an HR problem to tell team members to eat breakfast, lunch, and take care of their personal vehicles? Interesting. So his background is they're in the business of giving people their homes back from the invasion of rats. So over the years, he's noticed team members who don't eat breakfast or lunch, and their personal vehicles don't get maintained. Um, we've got two separate things there, but the lack of energy and forgetfulness throughout the day, and also missed days from not being able to drive to work. And they get paid over scale for our industry. And he operates in California. So that's two separate questions there, but probably the same employee, right? So it sounds like there's a performance standard that they might not be meeting, or you might not have in place yet. So, one of the things I'd make sure to have in place is, what are the key personal indicators? What are the things that are important? So would it be, a 5-star rating on our reviews, right? So if you can send a follow-up email automatically after each visit through your CRM and say, hey, can you rate us on Google, or could you rate your experience on a scale of 1 to 5? It would be great to get that. So actually having some measure from their clients, so if they are not meeting that performance standard, or if your goal is to service on a 1 week period at least 7 customers, or I bet you can't plan how many rats are going to be around somebody's property or how big they are. You'd know the average, right? So if the key personal indicator, the goal is 5 per week or 7 per week, you can see if they're dropping down and below that. And then you can specifically sit down with the employee and say, what do you think is working? What is not working? And you can actually point out and say, hey, I've noticed that you don't have a lot of energy some days. Do you think it's related to diet, right? And you can ask those specific questions. Getting people personally motivated is tough. But if you can relate it back to their job and talk about cause and effect, I really like to get you up to the level where you're working as a X level extermination technician, right? Or I'd like to be able to eventually promote you, but these are the things that I'm going to need to see change. You show up on time, you don't miss work, and these things. And here's what I think you need to do to put them in place. Do you think those will work? And that'll be, having a good breakfast, bringing a lunch, and you need to have vehicles that's up to date. I know this local garage. I've asked for a 5% discount for employees. Whatever it is to push them. It is tough when employees don't have enough money to either live in the community or maintain their vehicles. Unfortunately, sometimes we don't have the profit margins where we can make sure that they can drive a $30,000 car, but really being able to encourage them, find a really great garage and say, hey, can we get our employees like a 5% discount? They might say no, but say, yeah, I'm going to drive all my employees there. I don't know if you have fleet vehicles where they're maintained somewhere, and kind of can negotiate that, but that might help, right? But really, are they meeting the standard or not? It gets pretty clear, and no more than 3 numbers, right? So if it's reviews and number of houses, and really make it transparent and comparable, and then you can put in stretch goals as well, maybe bonus on if they're able to do a number of houses and the number of Google reviews. And definitely if somebody's missing days from work, it's definitely worth kind of giving them first a verbal notice and then a written notice, right? So really catch their attention and just say, here's where we're at. Here's the standard I want you to meet, and actually putting it in writing, just in case you have to terminate them down the road. A lawyer is going to want to see that. Next question is from Ricardo, Premium Barbershop. What are the practical ways to show team members appreciation? And he's got a barbershop with 3 other barbers. I continue to show gratitude and appreciation. How can I practice this habit without breaking the bank? Great reminder. I need to be doing this. One of the nice things these days is you can actually sign up for services that will send your employees gifts and do it quite seamlessly as well, right? So I think gifting, especially impromptu gifting, like not expected, not on their birthdays, definitely recognize their birthdays, but if you can kind of put it in a schedule so it seems random to your employees, but say, okay, 4 times a year, I'm going to recognize this employee, right? So it might be a gift certificate to a nice restaurant for them and their family, or bringing in ice cream cones, right? Definitely one of the most effective things that I've done in the past is that company barbecue, right? And it once a month or once a week, depending on how your resources and stuff. But you can also use it for clients as well. So if you do that once a month, where it's like, hey guys, we're going to do barbecue, and you can even use it for employee retention as well for other barbers, right? So you could say, hey, text any other barbers we're doing steaks on the barbecue, and you get some of those photos on social media and stuff. It just kind of bumps up your company. And like if you're doing burgers, I mean, what is it, $2 a burger, $2 a beer, right? Kind of limit the number of beers. You don't want people drinking and cutting hair too often, but really kind of giving those impromptu or informal bonuses really help. And people remember those versus, when they have to trudge down and buy a sub from Subway sandwiches. Even get in Subway sandwiches. If it's super hopping in September, and they're going to be super busy, stocking the fridge just for them with drinks, right? You don't have to go all Facebook and provide lunches every day, but if you do it once in a while, they'll actually recognize it more. I was speaking to an entrepreneur in Austin, Texas, and she said she's been talking to employees who said, I can't believe you don't have pet insurance, and I can't believe, and a different employee said, this is the first time I've ever had to pay for my lunches. Somebody coming from Facebook. So you don't have to go all in, but definitely, doing that barbecue is pretty affordable. An odd gift certificate, making that just kind of impromptu really helps kind of boost morale and recognizing when you're going to have busy times and doing it ahead of time, right? So if you can be like, okay, September's coming up, everybody's coming back to school, they're going to want their haircuts. Let me get gift certificates for pizzas for their families because I know they're going to be late, right? And just bam, give that to them. That 25, $30, it kind of makes a difference if their spouse doesn't have to cook dinner and the kids get, pizza, and they don't usually get pizza. So a couple of ways. And then as you scale, you can definitely look at some of those services that will send things to their home. You can also do that with Amazon because they're also coming into the barber shop. Just order something that you think would be wicked, and then also tailoring things that your customers might like as well, right? Because people like things that help them look good, right? So kind of keeping that image up, I think, is important for a barbershop. So that's all the questions I've got today. Definitely, less questions here in the midsummer, but keep those questions coming. Looking forward to doing more Facebook Live with you guys.